Lesson 1-7, adding unlike fractions. The term unlike here is used to show that the fractions we'll be adding do not have matching denominators. This lesson is going to really force us to apply a lot of the skills we've been going over in this unit. We'll need to use equivalent fractions. We'll need to use the concept of the common denominator in particular, because the fractions that are presented to us won't have a matching denominator at first. So we can't add them yet. We've got to look at the denominators given to us, find a common denominator, and then rewrite one or both of the fractions as equivalent fractions having that common denominator. That's a mouthful. Let's just see this in action. Number one, 1/2 plus 2/5. So as we knew, the denominators 2 and 5 do not match. Remember our method of finding a common denominator. We start with the larger one first, in this case the 5. Ask ourselves the question, will 5 work for 2? In other words, can I take 2 and multiply it by something to get 5? No, I can't. Don't give up on 5. Go through your multiples of 5 until you find one that works. The lowest common multiple, or the first number that appears on this list that will work for 2, is the 10. We can prove that. Now, you might have looked at this list and said, well, Mr. Verbacher, won't 20 work also? It will. It will, but 20 is not the lowest common multiple. And so if you use 20 and you work it through that way, you'll have an extra step at the end to reduce your answer into simplest form. That's why, to me, it's more efficient to use a common denominator that you know is the lowest common multiple. So 10 is our winner. We know from the law of equivalent fractions, what you do to one side, you do to the other. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. We can show how 1/2 gets rewritten as 5/10. We simply multiply the bottom and top by 5. Similarly, using the law of equivalent fractions, what you do to the bottom, you do to the top, we can show how 2/5 becomes 4/10. We multiply the bottom and top by 2. Now that these fractions have the same denominator, we can add them by keeping the denominator the same and letting the numerators do the work. 5 plus 4 is 9. Our answer is 9/10. Moving on to the next one, 3/4 plus 5/8. Let's start with the larger of the two denominators. In this case, it's 8. Ask ourselves the question, can 8 work for 4? In other words, can I take 4 and multiply it by something to get 8? Yes, I can. This is good news, because since 8 works as a common denominator, we don't need to touch 5/8. That already has the denominator we want. We simply need to rewrite 3/4 as something over 8. What we do to the bottom, we do to the top. If I start with 3/4 and want to rewrite it as an equivalent fraction where the new denominator is 8, I've got to multiply the bottom by 2. What I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. 3/4 therefore becomes 6/8. Now, I can add 6/8 and 5/8 together because the denominators match. 6 plus 5 is 11. 11/8 is my answer. But then the British nanny is there, wagging her finger at me, reminding me, improper. I have to regroup. I've got to convert 11/8 into a mixed number. 8 goes into 11 one time cleanly. That's my whole number. The difference between 11 and 8 is 3. And the denominator 8 stays an 8. 11/8 gets rewritten as 1 3/8. Final answer. Now watch out for that British nanny. You never know when she's going to pop up next. All right, 1/6 plus 2/5 is our next problem. 6 and 5 are the denominators. 6 is the larger of the two denominators. Go through your multiples of 6 until you find one that works for 5. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Ding, 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 ding. 30 is our winner. Let's rewrite 1/6 as something over 30. What I do to the bottom, multiply by 5. I must do to the top, multiply by 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Now let's rewrite 2/5 as something over 30. What I do to the bottom, multiply by 6. I must do to the top. 2 times 6 gets us 12. And bring it on home. 5 and 12 is 17. Our answer, I know it's a little crowded here on my space, but our answer is 17/30. Moving on. 1/3 plus 5/6. The larger of these two denominators is 6. Can 6 work for 3? Yes, it can. That's good news because that means 6 is my common denominator. I don't have to touch or change 5/6 at all. I just need to rewrite 1/3. 1/3, I'll multiply the bottom by 2 and top by 2. That's going to become 2/6 plus the 5/6 equals 7/6. What do you notice about 7/6?
It's improper, Mr. Prabhakar. That is improper.
It is. It is. So let's clean it up. 6 goes into the 7 one time cleanly. Denominator stays as 6. And the difference between 7 and 6, or the leftover, is 1. 1 and 1/6 is our answer. Number 5, 3/8 plus 3/10. 10 is the larger of the two denominators. Let's find our common denominator. Go through your multiples. 10 on its own is not going to work for 8. 20, 30, 40, 50. Wait a minute, 40. 40 works for 8. 40 is our common denominator. So we need to rewrite 3 over 8 as something over 40. What we do to the bottom, multiply by 5. We must do to the top, multiply by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 3/8 is equivalent to 15 over 40. Now, let's rewrite 3/10 again as something over 40. What we do to the bottom, multiply by 4. We must do to the top. Take 3 and multiply that by 4. It gets us 12. Add them up. 15 and 12 is 27. Denominator stays the same. We get an answer of 27/40. Number 6, 1/2 plus 1/4. The larger of the denominators is a 4. Will the 4 work for the 2? Yes, it will. So we leave 1/4 alone. We rewrite 1/2 as 2/4. Multiply bottom and top by 2. And add them up. 2/4 plus 1/4 is, of course, 3/4. Number 7, 4/9 plus 5/6. The larger of the two denominators is 9. Will 9 work for 6? No. I can't take 6 and multiply by something to get 9. So 9's out, but I'll go through my multiples of 9. 9, 18, ding, 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 and I've got a winner. 18 is going to be my common denominator. I can prove that by listing out my multiples of both and noticing that 18 is the lowest common multiple that appears, right? And now let's rewrite both of these fractions with 18 as the common denominator. 4/9, we need to multiply the bottom by 2. Therefore, we'll multiply the top by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 4/9 becomes 8 over 18. Plus 5/6, multiply 6 by 3 to become 18, and do the same to the top. Multiply 5 by 3, that becomes 15. Bring it on home. 8 plus 15 is 23. 23/18 is improper. Clean it up. 18 goes into 23 once cleanly. And the leftover amount is 23 minus 18, or 5. 1 and 5/18 is our final. And finally, problem 8. Denominators are 12 versus 4. Will 12 work for 4? Yes, it will. I'll leave 1/12 alone. I'll rewrite 3 over 4 as something over 12. What I do to the bottom, multiply by 3, I must do to the top. Multiply by 3, 3/4 becomes 9/12. 1/12 plus 9/12 is 10/12. Notice that 10 and 12 are both even numbers, so I can simplify or reduce this answer by dividing the top and bottom by 2. And I get 5/6.